Welcome everybody to a brand new movie review. This is going to be for the movie Burnt. So this movie stars Bradley Cooper, Sienna Miller, as well as Uma Thurman. This movie also stars Daniel Bruhl, which you guys may have known him as one of the main villains in Captain America Civil War. This movie is directed by John Wills and is written by Stephen Knight, which this movie is one of my favorite films. I think that came out of 2015. I know a lot of people think it's a little bit overrated and that this movie isn't as good as some of the other films that came out that year, but I highly disagree with that. I think this is a fantastic movie and is a movie that features, a unique set of cast and characters with it. This movie starts out where you see Bradley Cooper kind of working in a restaurant in New Orleans. He kind of had a running out in Paris when he was working in that sort of restaurant scene, and he kind of collapsed and had sort of a burnout type of period and just went off the rails and kind of fled to America. This entire time he's kind of working his way back up to that scene and trying to get his third Michelin star, which getting that third Michelin star, pretty much grants you as sort of God tier status in terms of the restaurant business. And Bradley Cooper's character definitely does want to get to that God tier status within this film. He goes and recruits a new set of team for his restaurant that he's building, including taking over an existing restaurant by Tony Velarde, one of his previous people that he kind of worked with during the whole Paris scene, kind of fucked him over, as well as Jean-Luc, who kind of took him underneath his wing as his mentor. And, you kind of see a little bit of the past come back to haunt Bradley Cooper when one of the members of that group, Michelle, comes to work with Bradley Cooper. He kind of chases him down an alleyway. They get into a little bit of scuffle, and you kind of reveal kind of what happened to Bradley Cooper and what he did to kind of screw up the restaurant business that he had in Paris. He is a little bit naive. He thinks that he can pretty much get whatever he wants, and he thinks that he can pretty much treat his co-workers and the people that work underneath him kind of however feels like it. You see at one point in time he kind of grabs Uma Thurman's character and he just kind of shoves her, and you see the aggressiveness in his eyes. You see sort of what he's willing to do in order to achieve this sort of God tier like status. You see a lot of the other people that he's employed to try and kind of simmer him down a little bit, but that never works. He's always cussing people out when things don't go his way. He's throwing shit against the wall. He's throwing pots and pans and stuff. He's pretty much what I would call a destructive personality, I think, in this film. Will get physical with you if he has to in order to make his point. But, I really do think this movie is fantastic. At one point in the film, you see him go to this reviewer who pretty much reviews restaurants and stuff, and she's like, my biggest regret was actually dating you, even though she's technically a lesbian. So she's kind of questioning her sanity of sleeping with Adam Jones, who's the main character played by Bradley Cooper. She goes to review the restaurant. Things go really horribly. Bradley Cooper's character freaks out, sending everybody home, which pretty much prompts him to do sort of these news shows, promising that he'll pay people back who went to the restaurant during the first time that they opened, and that he's going to try and make it up to people. He also wants to make it up to the family that kind of took him in under his wing when his family just abandoned him and left him for dirt. That being Jean-Luc, who was pretty much the people that took him in underneath his wing. He screwed everything up by releasing rats into his restaurant, and I think it's pretty funny, but yeah, he got kicked out, pretty much fled back to America, and then came back, and that's kind of where we find ourselves in this story. There's even a part in this film where Bradley Cooper's character tries to kill himself, basically, because he gets sabotaged by Michelle, who purposely, puts too much spices in sort of the recipe that they're having being cooked for the guests and stuff, and that causes him to lose another chance at receiving a third star. And this movie deals with a lot of the facts that, Bradley Cooper's character is trying to be better than himself. He's willing to do whatever it takes to kind of be a better person. You see that he has a history with drugs, that he has a history with an alcohol problem as well. Him going out late at one night in London and drinking and taking drugs and stuff, and then he has this sort of notebook of list of names and numbers of people that I think he can trust, and he's just kind of whittling away at it, which I think is pretty interesting, something you don't really see that much in movies. I really do like the way that this movie is shot. I think that this movie is very realistic in the way that they're shooting this movie, because they want to present this in sort of a realistic fashion. They could have hyped it up a little bit and a little bit more cinematic than they normally did, but they always find interesting ways to film the scenes, especially in the restaurant area. Like, nothing you see is ever the same in any of these shots. Like, they always do some unique sort of Michael Bay style shots within this film, and I really do appreciate that. I like the way that they film sort of the food and stuff. When they're outside in sort of the London aspect, like, nothing feels the same in sort of the architecture and stuff, which I really do like. I like it when movies kind of take place outside of the United States and stuff, and you kind of see a little bit of a different culture than you would normally if you're just shooting a film here in America, which they easily could have done. This easily could have been sort of a movie that they shot here in the US, but they decided to shoot it in London, which I think was pretty cool. Probably because they got tax breaks and stuff for filming there, but this is a different side to sort of these characters that you kind of grow up with. And Uma Thurman's character, sort of a single mother who's kind of had a really bad past in terms of relationships and stuff, and she's trying to deal with not only Bradley Cooper's destructive behavior, but at some point in the film, towards the halfway point, there's another side story where she's kind of acting like Bradley Cooper's character. She's throwing stuff around, she's cussing out the other co-workers that she works with, and Michelle goes up to Bradley Cooper. He's like, yeah, I liked her the way that she was before. Like, we can't have a restaurant with 2 of you people in it just because it would be kind of a mere scenario to work with. And Bradley Cooper just kind of dismisses him, saying that, we kind of need to whittle out the weak, that, if she can't handle it, then she shouldn't probably be working there. And she eventually proves herself to him by kind of him confessing that he has feelings for her when he kicks her out of her restaurant in the film. And, that kind of relationship blossoms into Act 3. And towards the later half of the film, you see sort of Bradley Cooper getting his 3rd star. He grows a relationship with Uma Thurman. They actually end up starting to date and stuff, which I think was a pretty good and interesting way to send off the character. But I really do like this movie. I could go on and on about this, but Bradley Cooper's character is sort of like the Anthony Bourdain and the Gordon Ramsay of the chef world in this film. That's kind of how they play off his sort of restaurant and stuff. They even make fun of Burger King at one point and saying that it's too consistent, and that's the reason why people don't really like it that much. I think it was pretty funny of a point to put in there. I like the sort of stylistic nature that they chose to film sort of the food and stuff like that. I think this movie has a really good soundtrack as well. Some of it I actually own on my iPhone. I went and purchased the soundtrack to this because, they got Barnes Courtney on there, which I'm a huge fan of. They've got a lot of other different artists on there, which I think add to the overall aesthetic appeal of this film. So I think the soundtrack that they chose for this movie is definitely pretty cool. I don't really see good soundtracks nowadays that I really want to buy because, they all seem the same. And if you've purchased them already, you don't really need to go out and buy it again. I think it's kind of annoying that people seem to think that audiences want the same songs just repeated itself in other films, i.e. Suicide Squad, which I have to talk at a different video. But overall, I'd have to give this movie about a good B+. I think this is definitely a movie that you can go and watch over and over again, and right now it's on Netflix, so you can pretty much watch this movie for free. It's not perfect by any means, so I don't think I would give it sort of that A+ rating or that A sort of stature, but I definitely do think this is a good B+ movie. It's a good movie to watch for about an hour and a half, and to kind of kill some time and to kind of get something out of this that you normally wouldn't, sort of the age of superhero movies and stuff like that. So that's my rating for the film. Like I said before, I could talk pretty much on and on about this movie, but I think I'm going to leave it there. So hopefully you guys like this review, maybe learned a thing or two about this movie. And if you guys want to check this out, definitely check it out on Netflix, or go out and buy the Blu-ray. I already own the Blu-ray, and I watch that every once in a while, but seeing as though it's on Netflix and I can watch it whenever I want to, I pretty much just watch it on there. But it's actually one of my favorite movies, and I think all the cast in this movie does a really great job, including the screenwriter. I don't think the screenwriters for this movie get sort of that credit that they deserve. So hopefully you guys like this review, and as always guys, rate, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace out.